so good to see your faces and hear your voices, or just see, an outline of your name. Every way that you are present is very beautiful tonight. All right, so we're live. I'm going to go ahead and mute folks, but there will be chances to hear your voices later. So welcome. Want to just invite folks wherever you are, whatever physical space you're in, to root down. If your feet are on the ground, if you want to stand up or sit up a little bit taller, and just take one deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And just let that feeling of Shabbat, let that feeling of calm settle in. Let everything else that has happened this week just flow away. Focus on being present here in this beautiful community, and we'll do one more breath. So we'll read responsively by paragraph. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. So we'll start by kindling our Shabbat lights, and I'll invite Freema to read this English and light some beautiful candles on her screen for us. And Freema, if you have a chance to unmute so that we can hear your voice.
Okay.
Yes.
Could everybody see?
Yeah, we got you, Freema.
Okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generation of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushonu b'mitzvotav v'tzivonu lehavlikneh now shall Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivonu lehadlik neh Shabbat.
And I'll invite Diane to lead us in Kiddush. Just have to unmute. I think you're unmuted, Diane. Oh, You just muted again, so one more time.
Okay,
Yes, thank you. Great.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. We're just happy to hear your voice.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who, finding favor with us, sanctified us with mitzvot. In love and favor, you made the holy Shabbat our heritage as a reminder of the work of creation. As first among our sacred days, it recalls the exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given us your holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies the Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Thank you, Diane.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava v'ratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom tekila lemikrai kodesh, zeichel etziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'chata, v'tanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava v'ratzon, in haltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Amen. Chaim. As we move into Kabbalat Shabbat and come upon the words of Lecha Dodi, we think about the framing of Shabbat and this idea of a sacred rest. We take a step back from the week, but we don't just cease in doing everything and anything. There's also an active part of our Shabbat observance. Lecha Dodi ligrat kala, come, beloved. Let us greet the bride. Let us greet Shabbat. We have to actually run out and greet Shabbat. We have to welcome Shabbat. It just happens every week, and yet we take that little extra step to make it holy for us.
And here's a Lecha Dodi by favorite composer of mine, Rachel Nelson. And try to learn the refrain, sing along. I'll sing the refrain a few times and just try to do that for tonight. The refrain for this beautiful Lecha Dodi goes like this. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat Kalla, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kalla, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kalla, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, shama v'zecha b'dibor echad, Ishmi anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi likrat kalla, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, Lecha Dodi likrat kalla, p'nei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki hi mekor haberacha, mehirosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshava tikila,
לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כברך ומיהורי, הורי, הורי שדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We rise in body or in spirit for our call to worship our Baruch Hu.
Lai 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 la la lai lai la 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 lai la la lai. Lai 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 la la lai lai la 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 lai la la lai. La lai la la lai la 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 lai lai la la lai la lai la la lai. La lai la 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 lai la la lai. Baruchu et Adonai המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan together. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
And Ahavat Olam by Marcy Jonas.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשעתנו וקומנו נעשייה בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם לעולם עד. אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה. אהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Ahavat
אהבת עולם Am Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta.
So Ahavat Olam, everlasting love. We're in this part of our service that is technically sometimes referred to as a liturgical love sandwich. So we start off with Ahavat Olam, this prayer about Ahava, love, everlasting love, this love that the divine shows us. We come next to our Shema, and then we move to our V'ahavta, again having that root of Ahava, of love. For switching from the love that the divine shows us to the love that we have for God. So I want to invite you, before we go into the Shema, to think about someone in your life. It can be anyone. It can be someone in the space with you now, or someone far away, someone who isn't with us anymore, someone who you love, someone who you want to just bring into this space, adding to the holiness of Shabbat. With that person in mind, we'll move to Shema, the watchword of our faith.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuta, Leolam Vaed.
We'll continue in a moment with our V'ahavta, and you can be seated if you are standing. So you thought of some person that you love, and now I want to invite you to think about, what is it? What is that feeling that makes you feel loved or loved? Can you identify it? Is it actions? Is it words? Is it just something you know when you feel it? What makes you feel love? What is something that you do to make someone else feel loved? As we come to V'ahavta, not only do we receive love, but it's upon us. We're actually commanded that we have to engage in this act of loving, of opening our hearts to others. So we'll continue to reflect on this theme as we go, and we'll chant together our V'ahavta.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzvacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levonecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha bevetecha uvelektecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'komecha ukeshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem emet. So we thought about love in your life, and now I want to invite you to think about who else in our world could use a little bit more love. Who else could we open our hearts to? In our liturgy right now, we are very much reflective of where we are in our cycle of Torah, in the middle of the book of Exodus. We just experienced this moment together 2 weeks ago of standing on the parted shores of history, getting ready to go into that expanse, to go into that freedom, to let our nets cast a little bit wider, to have a bigger impact on the world. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot together, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. There is no way to get from here to there except joining hands, marching together.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught. Before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it's eternal Egypt. That there's a better place, a promised land, and the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together, singing yai la 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 ya la 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 yai la 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 ya la 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 yai la 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 la. Moshe Miriam, ובני ישראל, לכנו שבשמחה רבה, יאמרו כולם, איי, לה 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 לה, יאי, לה 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 לה, יא לה לה la 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 yai la 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 la.
As we come to our Hashkivenu, I want you to think about that love that you could send out into the expanse. And I want you now to picture it coming back a little bit over you and forming a sukkah, a shelter. A sukkah, a shelter of shalom, and a sukkah of ahava, a shelter of love. What would it be like to embrace being embraced by that sheltering love and to let that spread out over everybody else in our world in need? Our Hashkivenu recognizes that life is fragile and darkness will come, but we always have this hope for peace that is spreading over us and emanating out into the world. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, for your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against all enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful, guarding our coming and going to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, Hamidenu Malkeinu lechayim, ufras aleinu sukat shlomecha, ushmar tzitenu uvoheinu, ufras aleinu sukat shlomecha, ushmar tzitenu uvoheinu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, Hamidenu Malkeinu lechayim, Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukkot shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Amen.
From thoughts of peace, bringing our focus back to the joy and the energy of Shabbat Vishamru. We, the people of Israel, shall keep Shabbat, making it a covenant for all time. This day of Shabbat, this special day, set aside just for us, set aside not only to rest and relax, but also to uplift. We continue with the Vishamru.
Now see if this Vishamru is so familiar after the third hearing. This Hasidic style, Fred Ross Perry, beautiful setting of Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Shabbat. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. כי ששת ימים מסע אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת.
I have to let y'all in on a little secret. My laptop stand today, so that I could be taller and actually standing, is a drum, and I was personally jamming out on that. If only we could actually play instruments and sing at the same time.
That's the hope in the sanctuary. We'll get some
soon. Yes, indeed. All right, my friends, we continue. We rise in body or spirit as we move into our Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi tehillah. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotinu v'Imotinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagdol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imot, Mivi Geulah Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, מלך עוזר, משיח מגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, לחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח. מוריד הגשם, מחכה לחיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיי ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני לחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We'll pray together. You can be seated if you're standing. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. So we'll move in our section of our Amidah to our Hoda'ah, our portion where we actually are prescribed to express gratitude. So I want to invite you, if there is anything that you are feeling grateful for, anything big or small that you're feeling grateful for, that you would want to share with us, share your blessings and making them blessings that we can all celebrate. I would invite you to either unmute or put something in the chat, whatever you want to acknowledge that you're feeling grateful for this week. And just because I can't see everyone, if you want to say something, go ahead. You can unmute. You can use the raise hand reaction. Typing in the chat is great. Freema.
I'm just thankful that everyone I know, I hope, will be safe and just to be safe from this storm. And I could only vouch for a few people that I know have food and are staying home. So I hope everybody is just safe and warm and just be safe. Thank you.
Awesome, Charlotte, for the peaceful snow falling. Karen, grateful for Shabbat, so we can hear the service. Nathan started a new job at Brooklyn College and NYU. Mazel tov. Gail and Bob joined a new health club. Had a really enjoyable time working out there. Amazing. L'chaim, we can say, to your health. Anybody else have anything that you are feeling grateful for?
I'm very grateful for the food on my table, the heat in my apartment, and the kindness of strangers. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. All right. Anybody else? It can be so small. It can be as small as the snowflakes that were falling this morning. Whatever you want to express. I'm grateful to be here, to be feeling good. And that's just enough. And I honestly, I have to say, I adore snowfall. It might be the fact that I grew up in the South and just, it's still, I don't take it for granted. Every time it snows, it's an exciting day. It's an exciting way to wake up. So we'll join together in these words. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha v'lecha na'eh lehodot. One thing we are grateful for is peace and the ability to continue to hope for, to long for, to create more peace in our world.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Lamcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Lamcha Tasim Leolam. Ki hatahu melech Adon B'chol hashalom. B'tov b'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol leit ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. Lai 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 la la lai. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
We take a few moments reflecting on the words in our own hearts with silent prayer.
Create your heart within me, and let my soul wake up in your light. Open me to your presence, flood me with your Holy Spirit, and I will stand boldly sing the power of your forgiveness. And I will teach your love to the lonely, and the lost will find their way home. Ooh, 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 open up my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. Oh, Adonai, open up my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. Yihyo lerotzon imrefi v'gyor libi lefanecha.
Here we are, Hinenu, gathered together. Some could say just like the Israelites were gathered at the foot of Sinai, a gathering that we are reading about in this week's Parsha, Parshat Mishpatim. After years of enslavement in Egypt, a miraculous escape through parted water, joyous celebrations, complaints, doubt, here we are in the midst of receiving the Ten Commandments. Here we are, joyously embracing Shabbat, this chance to step back and pause. And here we are, reflecting on the past and anticipating what lies ahead. At any moment, we are full of contradictions. We can be looking back and forward at the same time. We can be feeling excitement and sadness. At any moment, we're full of contradictions, wrestling with them and trying to just sit in the midst of the dissonance. Even as we try to let go of the dissonance of the week, whatever it might be. Wanting to be outside, being excited for snow, but not being excited for the shoveling. Being excited to gather, but wishing that we were back in person, which is coming so soon, whatever that is. We're also struck this week by a contradiction presented to us in our text. This week's Torah portion teaches us that Moses and Aaron, Nadav and Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel ascended part of the mountain and literally saw the God of Israel. Well, God has communicated with particular individuals throughout the Bible. We've never before had a group of people, let alone 74 people, seeing God. So it begs the question, what exactly did they see? How is that even possible? In just a few chapters, we'll read that God tells Moses, no one can see me and live. Yet somehow, these people beheld God and were able to continue in their routine. The text tells us that they went on eating and drinking after this experience. The first question, what did they see? The verse notes that they saw the God of Israel and continues, under whose feet was the likeness of a pavement of sapphire. In biblical descriptions, we often see an almost royal portrayal of God. In this case, sitting on a throne with feet resting on Livnat Hasapir, this pavement of sapphire. In this description, I always imagine a really nice pedestal or a footrest encrusted with sparkling sapphires. And my interpretation doesn't seem to be too far off from the early rabbis who said that these Livnat Hasapir that God's feet rested on were actually bricks of sapphire. Now, whether they're giant brick-like sapphires or bricks covered in sapphires, little bit less clear, but not crucial to our understanding. The Mechilta, an early rabbinic midrash, draws a parallel between these bricks upon which God's feet rest and the bricks that the Israelites were forced to build for Pharaoh when enslaved in Egypt. The message is that in their hundreds of years of struggle and hardship in Egypt, when the Israelites felt the most alone and abandoned, didn't feel like their situation was ever going to change, the message is that God was sharing in their experience and hardship, laboring right along with them. Just as the Egyptians crafted bricks to build up the just as the Israelites crafted bricks to build up the Egyptian infrastructure, God too built bricks, composing a structure that would be supportive of the divine presence, to hold God up when crouched over and weeping for the Israelites. So how did the 74 people see this image of God and live? One of the verbs used to say that they beheld God, vayechezu, is the verb used for a very particular type of seeing. Not necessarily a physically looking upon, like here I am seeing your faces on this Zoom screen, but the type of seeing that occurs in a prophetic vision. After the ordeal of the Exodus, the wandering, the demands of the desert, the continuing questions of faith, these individuals came together for a moment of ultimate understanding. At this pivotal time, when the people are entering into a covenantal relationship with God, they share a vision of what that relationship is. The bricks under God's feet remind them that life, even in its darkest moments, is a shared experience. That God and human beings are partners in creation, even when building the bricks of bondage. Their vision wasn't something that killed them, but rather it helps them to live, to go forward in their call to lead their community. Only once they share that experience and understanding, only once that happens together, can Moses go up the mountain to get the tablets, the physical stones inscribed with the law that's been relayed to the people. Opening our eyes to the world around us can be difficult. It can be so much simpler to cast our gaze downwards and move through our days, not seeing the injustice or the struggle around and within us. But even when opening our eyes to the world, really seeing the messy parts of our own lives, even when that seems like it's going to destroy us, we have to open our minds to the possibilities of what lies ahead. Of the 74 individuals gathered at Sinai, no individual could look upon God and live. But when they came together as a group, they were able to see the holiness in their lives. No individual alone can set the tone of a community. It's up to us as a group to pay attention to visions of who we want to be and to share those visions with the people in our communities. Our own B'ShERT community has engaged in this process of visioning. Some of the folks even on this call have helped with our calling project to literally make sure that we are reaching out to and seeing and hearing everyone in our community to see, what do folks in our community really need? What is our vision to take us through this time and to move into the future? So just as Moses answered God's call to action and service with the response, Hineni, here I am, we gather as a community saying, Hinenu, here we are. We're moving forward into whatever the future brings with our eyes open and ready to see a vision of a more perfect world. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be so. So friends, at this time, we think of one way of perfecting our world, and that is through healing, healing of mind, body, and spirit. We think of those in our B'ShERT community in need of healing. I'll read the list shared, the names shared in our Misha Berach list, and then I will invite folks to share names, to have an opportunity either to speak names of beloveds out loud or to share names in the chat. So our B'ShERT community today is thinking of Jesse Sakharoff, Ira Wise, Elaine Drucker, Allison Plummer, Rabbi Darrell Lerner, Susan Sisler, Joellen Fox, Alan Freemer, Valerie Pace, George Landberg, Susan Bilecki, Dana Haitkin-Nelson, Arlene Rosenthal, Michael Luck, Barbara Weiner, Joan Lifshitz, Amy Juskowitz, Soonseller, Deanna Roth, Jonathan Falkowski, Martha and Ed Vincent, Ingrid Grosso, Audrey Cohen, Eddie DeAngelis, Vicki Lightnaker, Sarah Brooks Cannon, Nettie Trommer, Mia Gannon, Gary Prezioso, Jeff Abel, Patricia Christensen, Monica Beyer, Patty and Erwin Cohen, Jordan Smith, Sandra Pastor, Honey Fisher, Irv Golden, Brian Abelman, John Vanderhorn, Donna Clement, Florence Schoen, Rachel Corazine, Rita Soul, Lou Levinson, Elliot Drucker, Ted and Albert Galernter, Zita Novick, Rosa Gordon, Adele Milch, Miriam and Arthur Goldstein, Eddie Buckner, Chris Hayden, Jennifer Middleton, Jerry Jaffe, Liz Yasuda, Mark and Paul Steiner, Mimi and Celia Karp, Sharon Zinn, Nicole Moskowitz, Marion Mandel, Anne-Marie Rogan, Richard Zagam, Marion Allen, John Reagan, Lonnie Spivak, Michelle Bracco, John Bile, Harold Lieberman, Jane Gleiberman, Cynthia Wilson, Caitlin Rose Manginelli, Patricia Matthews. I'll also read those names shared in our chat. Jody Siegelstein, Saul Siegel, Sal Camiso, Jerry Jaffe, Lori Silverman, Lauren and Ian Silverman, Irene's cousins, Jonathan Dash, Maureen Dash, Carolyn Dash, David Mouser, Hannah Paynes, Michelle Bracco, Lou Levinson, Rita Soul, Marion Muntz, Howard Pileski, Harriet Holtzman, Yuval Bat Eddy, Baby James Scarpula, Elliot Woofsey, Suzanne Mishler Hernandez, Paul Markowitz, Nancy Kelly, all the people suffering in Afghanistan, Michael Cohen, Freema.
Carol Beanstalk, Francina Mitchell Popowitz, Kathy's brother Gabby, Martin Bennett, Reva and David Cohen, and Phyllis O'Neill and Lucy Palazzolo. Thank you.
Diane. Please unmute Diane so we can hear you.
Okay. My sweet Lester Schenker.
Anybody else have names to share out loud?
Rabbi, it's Beverly.
Yeah.
like to say Susie Berkowitz, Jamie Rich, Ellen Hoyt, and Sarah Braver.
Thank you. We'll join together with words of Mishaberach, praying for complete healing.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'Avotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We continue, Aleinu Lishabeach. These words, Aleinu. So one of my rabbis in my first year of rabbinical school taught that so many communities, we do it, pretty much every synagogue refers to this prayer as Aleinu. But Aleinu just means it is upon us. What is it that's upon us? We need the full title, Aleinu Lishabeach. It is upon us to praise. We all have the ability and the responsibility to express praise, to notice the miracles of the world around us, and to actually voice and give life to those. So we'll rise in body or spirit, joining together. Aleinu Lishabeach.
Aleinu Lishabeach L'Adon HaKol. לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us, loved ones whom we've lost in recent days or at this time in seasons past. I'll mention those loved ones we've recently lost and then share our yahrzeit list and invite folks to also unmute and add names in the chat of anyone that you are remembering. Our B'ShERT community is thinking of Della Cohen, Fran Arnowitz, Selma Carl, Harold Carl, Emily Seth, Moshe Usher Reinitz, Huma Saber, Layla Bloomfield, John Carfisi, Andy Glansman, Todd Zeitland, John Previtt Jr., Augie Dorio, Janet Esposito, Kay Josephs, Arnold Block, Elizabeth Clark, Kyle McGee Sr., Ida Houston, Louisa S. Butte, Perry De La Touche, Ira Roth, Roberta Hyrath, George Liss, Reverend Claude Park Street, Sylvia Tishkovich, Ellen Bolofsky, Cindy Ratagliata, Dolores Weinberger, Suzanne Aleknos, Shirley Kofker, Lillian Frost Ridgely, Thomas Marinin, Meg Goldate, Marguerite Romeo, John Young, Isadora Frost, Fred Perlman, Claire Kramer, Bob Ira Kleinberg, Dorothea Schuring, Peter Brandenberger, Lloyd Ricketts, Ellie Heimlich, Sherry Burns, Terry Singer, Henry Kuhn, Lily Zimmett, Bob Perlman, and Ira Berkowitz. If there are other names, please share them in the chat, and then we'll have a moment to unmute. Also, we're remembering Dr. Philip Pandolfo, Bonnie Sue Levine. If anyone would like to unmute and share names, I would invite you to raise your hand just because I can't see everyone's faces, or to simply unmute and speak out.
Rabbi, Jack Mandel, and Betty Rubel. Thank you.
We'll join together with words of Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, keeping all of our beloveds close to our heart. I'll invite you to rise according to your custom, and if you don't have a custom, I'll still invite you to rise either in body or spirit as we join together words of Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach Yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala u'bizman kariv v'yimru amen, Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemeid kudisha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Useh shalom v'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha.
Aseh shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom alinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen.
So I would love to invite our president, Adrian, for any words of announcement.
Shabbat Shalom. It's nice to see everyone. You know, I was thinking that if this were before the pandemic, people wouldn't have been able to get to the sanctuary on a night like this. You know, weather like this is very isolating. It's so great that we have this technology available to us where we can all be together in spite of the elements. And it's one of these silver linings that's come out of the pandemic. So it really is nice to see everybody. Let's see, tomorrow, religious school 9:30, B'yachad at 10, Shabbat services at 11. Monday, we have gentle chair yoga with Gail Levine-Freed. 7 o'clock on Monday, the Interfaith Coalition is going to be discussing Alice Hoffman's book, The World That We Knew, which is a great book. If you haven't read it, read it. Really good book. Tuesday, 1 o'clock, Torah study with Rabbi Pinsky. And Friday, we're back here again. And I think that's it. Everybody eat cookies, eat ice cream, drink wine, do all the fun stuff you do when you don't have to leave the house all weekend and you can stay in your pajamas and watch old movies and stuff. So enjoy, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It always comes back to the cookies somehow. We will, and just to religious school, we're actually starting at 9:15, if that applies to any of you or any folks in your home. Noni, our closing song.
We're singing Eina Deer tonight. Page 632.
I think I have the words that I'm working on pulling up, but just go and I will make sure.
Mi piel yevarach kol Yisrael, Eina Deer kadonai ve'en barok ve'en ameran, ein gidula katora vein dashneka Yisrael mipiel yevorak kol Yisrael in hador kadonai vein vatik vein amram ein zaka katora vein chamecha Yisrael mipiel yevorak kol Yisrael in tahor kadonai vein yachid kavein amram in kabira katora vein ladanecha Yisrael mipiel yevorak kol Yisrael in podei kadonai vein tzadik kavein amram in kedusha katora vein tomechecha Yisrael mipiel yevorak kol Yisrael mipiel yevorak kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Wishing you a beautiful snowy weekend at home. May you be cozy. May you feel the warmth of all of the love that emanates from within you and all that comes in from the outside. And may you have a Shabbat and a week of peace.